All right, we'll go ahead and get started because I feel like we might run out of time. That is, if you have any questions. But I'll just go over, I've got a few that we can go over here, but it's mainly going to be up to you to ask some questions maybe based upon things that we talked about last week and things that we'll talk about this week. So I've got about 4 questions or so to go through, and we'll talk about that. I left on this one, and I wanted to readdress this one just a little bit. This was, is it safe to back up files to Google Drive? And you can fill in any online backup service or online syncing folder service for that. So Google Drive, Dropbox, OneDrive, all those different services you've probably heard of. It is not recommended that you back up things, back up your entire computer, that is, to those services. However, your most important files, that's probably a good idea. Now, how many of you back up your photos to Google Photos? Does anybody do that? Okay, as of July 1st, if you're not paying Google money for photos, they will, how do I put this? They will make your photos not as high resolution as the ones that you took. They will downgrade everything and crunch everything down. So if you need help getting your photos off of Google Photos, like my mother-in-law does because she refuses to pay for anything, she's the biggest cheapskate in the universe. She can't afford 99 cents a month. And she's got 30,000 photos. That's the problem. We've got to move all of her photos over before they get crunched down. And you don't want to be able to pull up. These are what they're going to do to your photos in most of these services if you're not paying for it, is they're going to down-res them, meaning they're going to crunch them down to where they'll look good on a screen this size or maybe even iPad size, but when you try to print them out and put them in a picture frame, they're not going to look good at all. You try to blow them up at least anywhere near big, they're not going to look good at all. So again, you don't want to do that. Give Apple, if you've got an iPhone, give Apple 99 cents a month. Give them $1.99 a month and just sync all those photos to the cloud, and it's always backed up. You can take your phone and throw it in the lake, go buy a new phone, and your photos are still on there. That's my best solution for that. Now, as far as files are concerned, yeah, it's fine. Back up a few, gigabytes of files on Google Drive or on iCloud Drive or on any of those online driving things. In fact, I use my very most important files. I put them on multiple places and multiple hard drives, so I don't lose them. If you've got a large amount of data, like I do, these are 2 terabyte drives. They're about as thick as 5 credit cards, super small, about $80. And terabytes is 1,000 gigabytes. And so you can fit 2,000 gigabytes worth of stuff on one of these. They make 4 terabyte versions. They make 10 terabyte versions. I've got a 10 terabyte in my office for all the video stuff that we do and things like that. But if you just got photos and documents, one of these is probably going to be just fine for you. And you can usually plug that to your Windows computer, plug it up to your Mac, and you can actually use Windows Backup that's built right in. You don't have to download anything. You can also use something called Time Machine on the Mac, and it will download everything. It'll back up everything. And so you'll be good. And that's everything. Windows Backup will back up everything on your computer. So if your computer goes kaput, buy a new computer, you plug the hard drive in, boom, backs up everything and puts it just like you had it before. Okay? Any questions on that? Anything you want to know? Yes?
Tell me the name of that again.
This right here? So this is just there's a couple of different brands. And again, it's hard to understand, like, when you get on Amazon, the cheapest thing is probably not the best thing to buy, especially if you're holding a lot of data on it. So this is a Seagate, and it's just named the Ultra Slim Portable Drive, and there is 1 million hard drives out there. Western Digital has hard drives. Toshiba has some. You can even get a pretty big USB stick. They're cheap. You can get a 128 gigabyte USB stick and just plug it into your computer and back up things on that if you would like to. But the thing about these is these only last, and you think these last for ages, They only, I guess the door locked back. Why did the door lock back? These doors, man. These only last about 10 years. So you'll need to, you can't just put data on these and then put them on a shelf for 25 years. You need to kind of refresh these and kind of get them off of there and transfer your data some other time. But for the interim, these are good for about 7 to 10 years. But yeah, Seagate makes some, Western Digital makes some. You can get some of them for $50, $60. They're not very much at all, and you get a tremendous amount of data storage on these little things. I can put every photo that Bonnie and I on both of our phones have ever took since 2011, so 13 years worth of photos, 12 years worth of photos on one of these drives, and still have 75% of it left over. That's how much data is on these. So space, rather. So these are very good.
So if you have that, you don't really need to have the cloud.
You want multiple backups of there's a lot of different philosophies about backups. I would do both, and I do both because my photos are so important to me that I don't want to lose them. Bonnie lost several thousand photos because she deleted a photos folder on her Mac to try to free up space one time, and she didn't know what it was. Now, granted, that was like 8 years ago, but she lost a lot of photos. If she'd had them syncing all to the cloud, that wouldn't have been the problem. But she had some arbitrary file that did not look like a photo library, and she just deleted it. So I would do both, and again, it's $1 or $2 a month. They'll charge it right to your credit card, and it's just $1 or $2 a month, and they will sync it all to the cloud, and it will be on your phone. You can there's even an option on iPhones. I'll go pull up my photos here. There's even an option on iPhones. I've got 10,833 photos and 1,411 videos. And that sounds like a lot until you look at my wife's. My wife's is probably 4 times that on both of those. And you think, oh, you can't possibly have that much stuff on your phone. Well, I don't, because it's all stored in the cloud. So if I go back to 2021 and I click on a photo, guess what it's going to do? It's going to download that photo, and then it's going to show it to me. It's going to take just a second or two. If it's a video, it takes another couple of seconds, and it'll load it, and then and then when you haven't looked at it in a couple of days, it's smart enough to say, okay, they're not looking at that photo or not using it. I'm going to push that back up to the cloud and take it off their phone. So all you've got is a list of photos here, just different photos on there that you can look at and see exactly what they are. So I'd absolutely do both. I do both. I back up my photos at least once every 6 months, but then I let them back it up on the cloud. It's probably redundant, but I'd let them back it up on the cloud. I just pay them $2, $3, $4 every month to do it. That was a very long answer. Sorry.
Can you hook up something like that to your camera?
Yes. So if you, well, it depends on what you're using. So for that, I would recommend something like Dropbox or Google Drive. And again, if you're using them, I would pay. Give them 99 cents, $1.99 a month, and have the storage space and the full resolution photos, and all you've got to do is plug your camera into your computer. It recognizes, hey, you're uploading photos, and it'll load them into the Google Photos library, and they'll be there synced to the cloud for you.
So if you've got 6 or 7 of the little cards,
Oh yeah.
then you just do one at a time and go through the...
And if you wanted to do it the manual way, you could just get one of these and back it up on those. Yeah, I wouldn't keep it on those little cards very long. Those data on those little cards is only good for a couple years. So you want to get those off. If you've got little cards laying around, you want to get those off if you can. And if you've got any, go ahead.
Download those to the iCloud.
Yes, yeah, and you can do that. Now, if you want to get them on iCloud, it would be a situation where if you don't have a Mac, then you need to get on your phone and probably download the Google Photos app on your phone and transfer them that way to iCloud if you want to. That's a little bit more complicated, and I can talk with you all about that if you want to.
What about Carbonite?
Carbonite is an excellent solution for online backup, and I use a version of Carbonite called Carbon Copy Cloner, and it literally makes a carbon copy of my hard drive every month because I have a lot of data that I don't want to lose. and a lot of Graymere stuff that I don't want to lose. I have terabytes of Graymere data and graphics and videos and all sorts of stuff that I don't want to lose. And so Carbonite is an online only service that you literally let your computer sit there and back up every single thing on your computer. It works on Mac, it works on PC. There's several other. Backblaze is another online backup solution. And again, these are probably $3, $4, $5, $6 a month. But at the same time, I cannot tell you how many times I have run upon somebody saying, I've lost this computer, I've lost all the data on this computer, is there anything I can do to get it off? Most of the time, there's not. And so if you've lost data, if your computer has crashed, if it's got struck by lightning, there's a church, Clearview Church of Christ up in Lyles, Tennessee. I'm dealing with them right now. They had 3 computers in the same night get zapped by lightning. Didn't have a surge protector, didn't have anything. The steeple in the church got struck by lightning. Everything in the church shorted out. And so they got money to pay for that through insurance, but all of their data, all of their videos, all of their documents on those computers that they had hooked up in the control room, all gone because they didn't have backups. So again, it's really fun. I say fun. It's not fun at all. It's sad to walk through an Apple store or a Best Buy and hear people literally going, but I don't have a backup. All those photos are gone. Like every time I can hear it. It's crazy. So you definitely want to back up, especially for your most important stuff. You don't have to back up your entire system. Just back up your most important things that are most important to you. That's a long answer to that question. Okay. Any other thoughts or questions on that? Okay. Let's keep going here. Are there risks to having more than one internet window open? Say for like your website, for your bank, or Facebook, plus your email, or like having your email open with like Walmart? I would say, for the most part, no. If you are using a up-to-date browser, now if you're still using Internet Explorer, don't do this. Internet Explorer has been, I said that last week, it's not working anymore since like 2018. So if you've got Internet Explorer on your phone, download Microsoft Edge. It's the new version of that. You need to get the new version. Or download Google Chrome. If you've got a laptop and you've got Google Chrome on that laptop and you wonder why the battery is lasting 30 minutes, it's because of Chrome. Chrome is terrible on laptop batteries, but it's okay, completely okay on desktops that are plugged into the wall. For the most part, it's completely fine if you're on an updated browser because every tab that you've got open or every window that you've got open is a self-contained sandbox. That's how they kind of frame it. Every tab, every window has its own sandbox, and they can't really touch each other. They can't really affect one another. But your browser has them connected through, like we talked about, cookies. It's the trail that you leave on the internet. And so they're not going to probably know your bank information because it's encrypted, but they're going to know where you bank, and they're going to know how many loans you have. They're not going to know if you have a credit card or not. They're not going to know your credit card number, but they're probably going to know what type of accounts you have, just some vague information, but they're not going to know anything else. So again, there's really no risk for that. I have heard what you do need to be aware of is security with your credit card on some of these things. I have a bank account, a secondary bank account that I only use to purchase things that are not Amazon, basically. Amazon is fine if you're buying stuff on Amazon. I've never had, where's some wood? Is this wood? Whatever. I've never had anything happen on Amazon with any kind of the Graymere's card or my personal card. So I trust them for that. But I've heard of a lot of different things with Walmart. In fact, my sister got something charged to her Walmart card just a couple of weeks ago. And it was several $100s worth of stuff. And again, her credit card company cleared that up and it was fine. But again, if you don't have it attached to your bank account in any kind of way, or your primary bank account that is, I don't personally believe in any kind of credit cards, so I don't pay for anything with credit cards. I pay for stuff with other debit cards from secondary accounts. And so, again, just beware of that. Don't leave up any windows where you're putting in credit card information for a long time. Don't be in the middle of buying something and putting your card information in and then go fix dinner and then come back and then fill it, keep filling it. Don't do that. Yes, sir.
Never put credit card number on a site that's not HTTPS.
That's right. If it doesn't say HTTPS and it doesn't have that little padlock icon on it, you should be able to see it in any modern browser. You don't want it. You do not want to do it. And in fact, I would tell you just to be cautious. Any site that you buy from that's not one of the big ones, if it's not Walmart or Amazon or, I don't know, eBay or something like that, if it's just a random site, you're probably going to be fine. But I would go ahead and use a credit card that's not attached to a bank account or savings account or anything like that. You're going to have some good. These credit card fraud and things like that has greatly been reduced because they really are on top of it quite a bit. So if you have a Visa card or a MasterCard or something like that, then they're pretty much on top of it. In fact, they're so much on top of it that every time I make a purchase on some of those, they stop it sometimes before I can even do it. I'm like, I'm the one buying it. Let me buy it. It's $300. Come on. It's not like I'm trying to buy a $30,000 car with a credit card. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's a hassle, but sometimes the security can work in your favor too. Any other thoughts, questions on that?
What about, sometimes when you order from Walmart, it'll say something that's going to be shipped from a different vendor.
And that's the same on Amazon as well. So Walmart and Amazon and a lot of these other places have these programs that you have to apply for to become a seller, basically, on those websites. And so very rarely do you actually, when you buy something from Amazon, is it actually ships and sold from Amazon? There's probably, if you look at the information behind it, it says ships and sold from this store, ships and sold from this store. And if it's sold from a store but it's shipped by Amazon, there's all sorts of mix and match and things like that they can do. And so I wouldn't be wary of that necessarily, but there are scams on Amazon and there are scams on Walmart. Walmart's awful. Every time I try to find something on Walmart's site, it's just, they say, oh yeah, well, this is available, and then it's not available. I'll get an email back and it's like, oh, sorry, we're out of stock on that. Well, why did you let me buy it in the first place? And it's just kind of this messed up kind of thing. Now, I don't normally have that problem with Amazon. Amazon is pretty good about not letting you actually purchase something unless it's actually available. But really, that's all I've run into with those kinds of stores and things. So I wouldn't worry about that necessarily. Does that answer your question? Any other questions and thoughts? Yes, sir.
Lots of scammers out there on Amazon. I think we get probably 6 to 8 emails a week saying your Amazon account has, been compromised. It's like, oh yeah, I don't even open it.
Okay, let's talk about that for a minute. When you get scam emails or spam emails like that, what do you do with them?
Delete them.
Okay. Instead of deleting them, if there's an option on your email that you use to mark as spam, please do that. That helps train the email system into, okay, this is spam. We didn't recognize it was spam. Thank you for telling us. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. So if you have the opportunity, don't just delete it. And most certainly don't archive it. I know that's a thing with Google. You don't ever delete anything from Google or Gmail. You just archive it. Don't archive it, but you can actually mark as spam. You may have to look for the button. You may have to, it may be an X button, it may be something else, but just if you delete it, that doesn't let the system know anything. So mark it as spam if you possibly can. Same thing goes with phone calls. In fact, we've got a question up here about that. I'll go ahead and go to it. So spam phone calls are kind of the same way. When you get a spam phone call, and we talked a little bit about this last week, somebody asked the question, you don't answer it, that's good right there. But does it do any good to block that number? Have you ever done that before? I've got a list of like probably 100 numbers that I've blocked because I don't even want to see the phone call again. But when I get a phone call from Fayetteville, Tennessee or Nashville, I'm thinking, and I get random phone calls from other ministers at churches that I don't have their phone and I don't have their phone store. I get stuff like that all the time. And I'm sure you do as well. So I end up answering them, and it's, hey, we're really concerned about your car's extended warranty. And you need to get your vehicle. It's your last chance. You need to get up here right now. And they don't even tell you anything where to go. If I could find the guy that is selling the extended warranty. I would go buy it for all of us so that we wouldn't get that phone call anymore. But I don't know. Anyway, it's these programmed calls. So what I told this person that asked this question, I said, I don't know if it does any good to block it unless they're repeatedly calling you back, but it makes me feel better. And it feels, quote unquote, feels like I get less spam phone calls when I do block certain numbers, because certain prefixes will be blocked and different things like that. And so your phone may get a little bit, Apple's done a lot for your iPhone to be able to recognize those spam calls. And so hopefully you see spam risk across it. And if you ever see spam risk come up, obviously don't answer it. Now, if it is not a spam risk, if it's one of your, old golfing buddies or college buddies calling or whatever, they can leave a voicemail. And so put it on, if you want to re-record your voicemail, say, hey, if I didn't answer the phone, please leave me a message. That kind of thing. Okay? Yes, sir.
On our landline, do we have any way to mark them as spam risk?
No, and that is another disadvantage of having a landline is, yeah. Because usually, so you've got a cordless phone for your landline, right? You got one of those little, you put it in the little charger, and it's just, there's no way, that phone's not smart enough to mark it as spam. There's no way that those can do that. So I don't know of any way. But again, I haven't had a landline in almost 20 years. Well, 15 years.
You need to get one so you can answer
We had
questions.
they required us to have landlines in college, believe it or not, because that's the way the dorm moms would call us. Because sometimes when you get to the basement level of dorms, the cell phone didn't pick up very well and things like that. Dorm mom would call you on the phone. Hey, get up here, or whatever. I need to talk to you, kind of thing like that. There's one kid, as a quick aside here, there's one kid that got kicked off campus, I remember. He programmed every single phone on campus to ring at the same time. He showed me. I was in his room. Everybody was in class, middle of the day. He goes, hey, Layman, check this out. And he hits the enter button, and every phone rang. And I was like, oh, that's cool. You got the phones on the floor to ring. And he goes, no, that was all across campus. And I'm like, what are you doing? You're going to get in so much trouble. Yeah, he got in a lot of trouble. So, but that's what you can do with landline phones. You can hack all away at different stuff like that. So, how many of y'all didn't like the discussion necessarily? Didn't like me saying that last week about landline phones? How many of you are going to reconsider getting rid of your landline phones?
Because it shows me spam risk.
Shows you spam risk. Okay.
Just turn the volume down when the phone.
Oh, yours. Yeah, you were talking about yours flashes on the TV. Okay. Okay. And that's good if it shows you spam risk or whatever, but I would not want to be watching TV and my phone rings on my TV. I'm sorry.
Oh, I got the volume down.
I know. I still don't want to see it.
You've seen my house, so it's all one big room.
Anybody else got any questions about the landlines and stuff that we talked about last week?
When you do make resolutions for this year, the very first one was get rid of the landline. We still have it.
And it's fine. I'm not telling y'all that I just feel like you're wasting money. And if that's something that you're willing to pay for and that's something that you find important to you, hey, then that's fine. I pay for $10 a month to watch Star Trek only. That's literally all I watch on Paramount is Star Trek. And that's it. They get my money. Even bad Star Trek is good Star Trek in my mind. Okay? But again, if it's important to you, then that's fine. But I hesitate because that's how they get you. And they're going to say, oh, well, if you cancel your cable, like Miss Racine's wanting to get all of it done, cancel her cable. I don't know what they're going to say about your landline if your landline's connected with Spectrum. Is your landline connected with Spectrum? Yes. So I don't know what they're going to say about that. Oh, well, your landline bill is going to go to $70, and it's like, come on. And so that's how they get you. They just want to bundle you to death. And that's the last thing that these cable and satellite companies can kind of pick at you at is, especially, and again, I'm not trying to make fun, but especially people your age who want that convenience of a landline. So just something to think about. Any other questions or thoughts on that? What was I wrong on last week? Was I wrong on something? I actually love being told I'm wrong so that I can correct it.
I wasn't smart enough to know.
You wasn't smart enough to know? I was wrong on the landline thing. Y'all had some good arguments for that. Several arguments I didn't think of. Yours by far was the best, though. Yours. In case you weren't here, Sylvia said I gotta have my landline phone so I can find out where my cell phone is because I lost my cell phone. That's what she said, and I said that's a good enough reason right there. But in all seriousness, if that's important to you, keep it. Okay. Any other thoughts on that? Yes, ma'am.
Like a little thing called a tile,
Yeah, tile.
my little tile. I took mine off because it kept ringing my phone every time my pocketbook jingled.
Okay. The Apple actually has a similar thing called an AirTag now. They're basically little GPS locators, and they're hyper local, meaning that you're going to be able to find something within feet, not miles. And so they've got a really neat feature. These things are, I mean, they're not cheap, but there's a little coin size little thing. It looks like something you'd play checkers with or something. And you can put these on devices. You can put them in your luggage. And your iPhone will actually guide you to exactly where that is using its built-in Bluetooth and things like that. So it's really helpful for things like they got cases for like remote controls for TVs and keys and all sorts of stuff that you lose in the couch and everything. And it's pretty crazy. So if you've got something that you lose all the time and you want to be able to find it, then maybe an AirTag or a tile would be the solution for that, especially if you have an iPhone. It's a good selection. Yeah, so let me dispel that real quick. No technology is perfect, but the media has latched onto that. Those are isolated cases where those particular AirTags have been hacked to do that. That's the thing that they don't mention in the news story, is that they had to go through all sorts of stuff to make those AirTags do that. And a normal AirTag is not going to do that. You can't use it to stalk anybody. In fact, it's built in, so if that person has an iPhone or even an Android phone, it's going to tell them repeatedly. If I go, okay, example, if I take an AirTag and I say, you know what, I want to know where Fred's at all the time. I want to know when Fred's coming up to the office so I can be ready, right? Because an elder's coming. And I take a little AirTag and I tape it to the inside of his gas cap or something like that, something where he can't find it. Just something, that's what they've been doing. They've been doing it and putting it inside people's cars. Fred has an iPhone. Fred does not have any AirTags. Fred does not have any kind of technology that would be, any kind of stuff that he does with that. He doesn't have any AirTags himself. But yet, because the system is so smart, it's going to tell Fred, hey, there's an AirTag within 6 feet of you right now. And it's going to tell him that repeatedly until it's gone. And that's how you don't stalk somebody. They have hacked these things to where they don't give those warnings to people. And the whole system is designed so that if I do lose a piece of luggage or do lose my keys at Ted's downtown, then somebody will be walking by and saying, oh, Chad's keys are on the floor here. Wow, I don't know who Chad is, but I can mark those as found. And so they're clearly not designed to stalk. These people have hacked those into doing those things.
Well, this news I saw, the guy had been alerted there was an AirTag.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's mostly how that's the bottom line of the story. They don't tell you all that. They just say, ooh, these things are evil. They're using them to track people and stalk people.
So you have to have two of them to work for your system to work?
No, just have to have an iPhone. That's all you have to have. Or an Android. An Android phone will tell you the same thing. Okay. It uses the same kind of Bluetooth technology, and it'll say, hey, an Apple AirTag is within 6 feet of you, and it's been within 6 feet of you for 3 days. And you're like, what? What is going on? So yeah, that's the way you can do that. Very interesting story, but thank you for mentioning that.
There's an app locator that you can put on your phone to keep track of Fred if he's got his phone.
Yes, it's called Find My. How many of y'all use Find My? Bonnie and I use it to just figure out where each other is sometimes, and just to make sure that we're, it's fine and everything. I don't go anywhere that Bonnie can't know where I'm going, except to the jewelry store. And which she said, what are you doing at Kay's? Like literally first ring I bought her in 15 years. And she goes, what are you doing at Kay's? Heart, heart, heart. And I'm like, oh, I forgot to turn it off. You can turn it off. I forgot to turn it off. But yeah, the ring wasn't a surprise then. So But in that case, yeah, you can find the Find My app is incredibly useful for those types of things, especially if you have kids or grandkids that you want to keep track of. And you should always have that app anyway, because if you lose your phone, you can find it that way. You can just pull up your computer, go to iCloud.com, and hit the button, and it'll send your phone. It's kind of like finding your keys with a remote locator. But yeah, that's good. Fred, did you have something?
Yeah, it's changing the subject a little bit, but I mentioned to you that the LastPass that you mentioned
Yes.
about last week, I've been working with that nearly every day trying to get my
Your passwords into it?
Yeah, and I'm having trouble with my URLs.
Okay.
I didn't understand fully what that is.
Okay.
I'll put a URL in, but then it's not what it should be to get to that site, and it won't take me there when I use LastPass and try to launch it. But it is good. I mean, I'm working with it. I've just about got it down, but I'm still having trouble with it. It's also when I'm using LastPass and I have a password that's not very good, it won't let me do anything until I change that password.
That's kind of good.
So,
It's kind of annoying, but it's also kind of good.
yeah, it's taking a lot of time.
And so there's a learning curve. Anybody download LastPass or 1Password after last week? Did anybody look at that? Only Fred, huh? What's that? You hadn't had time? There is a bit of a learning curve with that kind of stuff. And I'll tell you, some of these password managers are not perfect. I was arguing with one this afternoon. I was trying to log on to an account, and it did not have the right information or website down, just like you said, the right URL. And it was not letting me, it wouldn't look it up for me. I'm like, I'm right here. I know the password's stored there. Why are you not pulling it up automatically for me? And I've been using this app for 10 years, and it still manages to do that. Some websites have login pages that are specific, that have weird URLs. So if you were to log into Facebook or something, it might be login.facebook.com instead of just facebook.com. Hopefully, most of the time, a password manager would be intelligent enough to figure out, oh, well, that's facebook.com. So I need to look in the F's under Facebook, and I need to, okay, that's his password, and fetch it for you. But sometimes, like you said, they're just kind of not. Does everybody know what a URL is? Most of the time, your modern browsers, if you're on facebook.com, if you look up in your address bar, what will it say? It will just say facebook.com. But if you click on it and click on the whole thing, it'll say facebook.com/XYZ, and it'll have all that gobbledygook on the end of it. And that's the actual URL. And so sometimes that may be what's messing up on you, maybe all sorts of different stuff. Copying and pasting there is your friend, and again, it's just got a little bit of a learning curve on it. I'll work with you. I'll work with you. I'm not a LastPass person, but I could probably figure it out. Any questions? Okay, spam call, answer it. This one was an interesting one. Who gave me this question? Did anybody here give me this question? It was dropped in one of the... I wasn't exactly sure, so I was hoping that person was here to clarify. Explain network sharing settings for home network with desktop, laptop, iPads, etc. I'm not sure that's what... that's a little bit more sophisticated than even something I would use. And the only time I would use any kind of network sharing would be for printers. And even then, it's going to be with as intelligent as some of these computers are these days. I was able to go to a church. I was at West Fayetteville Church of Christ, helping them set up a camera on Thursday. And I needed to print something off. And sure enough, all I had to do was pick the right printer and hit that, and it downloaded, and it ran it, and it printed off. And I didn't have that printer installed, but I was able to print wirelessly because I was on their network. And so it's kind of neat to be able to do that kind of stuff. You can print wirelessly from your phone if you need to. You can print wirelessly from a laptop these days. And then, of course, you could obviously print from just plugging it in straight to your computer. As far as network sharing or any of that kind of thing, I don't know that you'd necessarily need to do that unless you're got a hard drive on your network that is being shared with all the devices in your home. And that's a little bit of a complex setup. Okay, now, that's all my questions. What questions do you have? What things are you wondering about?
How about covering that you just talked about, printing wirelessly from your phone?
Okay. So most of the time it's going to be something like a web page or an email or
A text.
well, I don't know about a text. So on a text message, I don't even know that you can. So let's see if I can. I'm going to go here. I wouldn't even know where to go, honestly, to print. I'm sure you can. So
Pete, what was your question? I didn't hear you.
he said, how would you print something from wirelessly? I don't know about text messaging.
From your phone?
You stumped me on that one. You stumped me on that one really quick. I don't know. Now, what would be, is that something that you would like to do?
Well, we've received things before from the kids or something, pictures, that we wanted to print out.
Okay. So in that case, what I would recommend is saving that photo out of your text messaging, not printing directly from the text messaging app, and then, or you send yourself an email. You can do that as well. So if I go to my email app and I see this Amazon order, I can click on it and I can actually print from my phone, and I can hit print. Most options will give you a chance to print. Yeah, so it's giving me a print options right here, and it's giving me the page layout, what it's going to look like, and that's all just on my phone. And you can do the same with your iPad as well. So most apps that have documents or have pages that you can print, any internet browser is going to give you the option to save that. It actually would be better for you to save the page if you've got like a recipe on a page or something. It would be better for you to save that page as a PDF, and all you got to do is go up there at the corner and go to the settings and save that page as a PDF, and then you can save it to your desktop and then print it that way. And so that's a good way to do it. Now, wirelessly, you have to have a printer that is wireless capable. Pretty much every printer that's a consumer grade printer that is wireless capable. And what they mean by wireless capable is that it's actually plugged into your Wi-Fi router as well. So you have to have a cable coming from your Wi-Fi router to your printer as well. But then you should be able to walk around your house with your iPad and print something from your living room and go in there in your office, and it's already printed back up. So you should be able to do that. And for the most part, iPads and iPhones should be able to do that pretty seamlessly. I will admit my strength is not printers. So if you want me to come to your house to fix a printer, I cannot guarantee success. Okay? The one in here, I couldn't even get it to do what I wanted it this afternoon. And so printers just do not like me. But that being said, it should be relatively simple to set up, especially for a Windows computer, but also for an iPad or iPhone.
How about an Android?
Same thing, same difference. In fact, Google uses a really neat service called Google Cloud Print. It will actually pull down the drivers on your phone really quickly and print it off that way. And so it's the same kind of thing. You just have to find the share button on whatever you're on. And for Android, I don't know what that share button looks like really. I can't remember. But on iOS, on iPads and iPhones, it's like a box with an arrow pointing out of it. And usually somewhere on that list, it's going to have an option to print. And you should be able to, if there's a printer on your network and you're connected to it wirelessly, should be good to go.
How about Amazon Kindle? Is it a standalone?
Printing directly from a Kindle? I don't know. I don't think you can. I don't think they want you necessarily printing stuff from books and things. Now I know that you can email and send different things. So what you can do on a Kindle is you can highlight things, and you can set, like for instance, if I wanted to highlight a paragraph on my Kindle, I can have that set to where it syncs with a service like Readwise or something like that, and I can print from there. And so if you've got excerpts of books and things that you'd want to print from, then absolutely you can do that. But not entire books or anything. Now you can actually store PDFs and EPUBs that are not necessarily copyrighted works on your Kindle as well, but I still don't believe you can print directly from a Kindle. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, this is really simple. On Gmail, email, how do I get rid of all of these I get every day from people? Like in NFL, I got something, a Christmas present, or get a name necklace, a Christmas present.
Okay.
And I still get all their stuff all the time. How do I get them off here?
Have you ever unsubscribed?
I don't know how.
Okay. So at the very bottom of emails, and sometimes it's hard to find. On most official things like NFL stuff, most official thing, K Jewelers, they still send me stuff, and I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't want it. I'm not going to buy another ring for another 15 years. Anyway, if you go down on those emails, it should be
Email.
right. It should be very tiny at the bottom. Usually they have some text that says, "Copyright so and so. You subscribe to this email this way," and you might have to pinch to zoom to get it bigger. And there should be a tiny, pretty hard to see unsubscribe button. Some email apps will actually give you a button in the email app to just do that automatically. Sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. In fact, my favorite is when you unsubscribe to somebody and then they send you an email telling you that you've unsubscribed. I'm like, no, I don't want any more from you. I don't want any more. So yeah, that's a problem of mine as well. Okay, you think it worked. Just wait a couple of days. If you get another email from them, it didn't work. And sometimes it comes to the same email and you've got different, and they won't unsubscribe you, say, take them 10 days to take you off the email list. I'm like, what, 10 days? What are you talking about?
Still allow 48 hours.
48 hours, okay. So yeah, that kind of thing. So if it's one of those things that I unsubscribe to something every day. And some I don't even remember subscribing to. In fact, most of them I don't remember subscribing to. I have an email specifically for buying stuff. I told y'all that last week. It's like, please don't email me at outlook.com or something like that. And I never check that, and it's just a spam bucket. So yeah, that's my email that I give out when I go into stores and stuff.
I like the one where you go research something, and then automatically they send you something.
Oh, interesting. Something you didn't necessarily sign up for?
Say you're looking for a table, and you go to a certain company, like Jones Furniture or whatever.
Join our email list. It pops up, yeah.
Not join, it's just automatically you start getting ads from them.
Yeah, well, yes, ads are
I
absolutely
don't put any information in, all I do is search for a table.
right. And that's cookies, and that is all sorts of connected things like cookies and the social web as far as Facebook. Facebook is tied into everything. That's why you see ads for stuff that you just talked about with somebody else. They're not recording your voice. They just know that you've been researching that, and they know that I was talking to Fred about a riding lawnmower, and our phones were in proximity to one another, and I have been looking up riding lawnmowers on my phone, and maybe he looked up riding lawnmowers 3 years ago, and it connects those two, and suddenly I've got an ad on Facebook. That's just how it works.
Are they watching you from that camera on your smart TV?
They're not. You have a camera on your smart TV? You have a camera on your smart TV? Okay.
Or your phone?
Vizio and Samsung, back in 2017, 2018, got in a lot of trouble for that actually. They were using the microphones on their TVs to record the audio in your living room. And they got in a ton of trouble for that and had to pay a bunch of fees to the FCC and all this other stuff. But you didn't hear about that, did you? That kind of stuff just happens all the time. Now, Amazon has their little ladies in the tube. They have them pretty locked down pretty well. The Windows has their stuff locked down pretty well. Apple has their stuff locked down pretty well. But some of these other manufacturers, Samsung, especially with these cheaper TVs that you get, who knows, right?
So a Vizio that you might have bought about 2017 has a camera on
It doesn't have a camera. They're not seeing what they don't have a camera in it. It has a microphone. And why it has a microphone? No idea. And I know that some of them have microphones to test the speakers to see what the feedback is and make sure it's okay and stuff like that. But these smart TVs are just as every bit as smart as your smartphone these days. They have the same kinds of processors and same kinds of chips in them. The only difference is they don't put cameras in them. That's about it. So yeah, again, just be very wary of all your technology. And all the stuff, and
Most
don't
laptops.
plot, yes, laptops especially with cameras on them at the very top. Be careful with those. Don't have terrorist plots in your living rooms. So do that somewhere else if you're going to do that. Okay, anything else? Any other questions? Yes, Ms. Sharon.
I have a question about a PC. What's the best software to clean up all your junk that gets on there and slows it down? Is there a certain-
Well, the man that's standing right behind you might actually be able to answer that a little bit better, but I like Malwarebytes is really good. Malwarebytes is also available on the Mac, and so it's really good. It's called Malware, Warebytes, like bytes, like computer bytes. And it will actually do a really good job at finding a lot of the stuff. There's free versions out there. There's also paid versions, so you might have to do a little bit of looking, but the free version is completely sufficient, and it should.
Scan it and then ask if you want to get rid of it?
Yes, yes. I use an app on my Mac, and I know none of you are Mac people, but I use an app called Clean My Mac, and it does a lot of the same stuff as well. But yeah, Malwarebytes is pretty good. And if you got to do more than that, you might want to talk to Rick Combs. Any other questions? I didn't have any other questions that were submitted to me. And if there's no questions from you, that means I literally covered everything, right? If you have questions, if you think about questions later, please get in touch. Again, I'm not confident that I can answer every question, but I can probably find you someone who can. If you need help, I've got the sign-up sheet right here. If you want to sign up, I can get to your home between sometime now and sometime between 2024. And I'm exaggerating, but it is the busiest time of the year, so please give me a little bit of grace on that. It is summer, June, and VBS. It's just so much stuff to do. There's not enough time in the day for me right now. So I will endeavor to help you out if you want to sign up. I can start and get an appointment set up for you. Any questions, comments? I'm glad we had enough to talk about today, and that's pretty perfect timing with 45 minutes because the kids are going to start coming in here in a second. So, all right, thank y'all very much. And again, see me if you have questions. Thank you.